It was an ordinary night, but for the fans filling the venue, what was happening there was anything but ordinary. The stage was lit up, and the music echoing through the venue was building everyone's excitement. The crowd was in a frenzy, their faces illuminated by the flashing lights. It was an intense anticipation, almost tangible, as if everyone knew something big was about to happen, but no one had any idea what it would be. The applause grew louder as the beat of the music intensified. Each second seemed to stretch into eternity. The lights around the venue began to dim, creating an atmosphere of suspense that seemed to grow with each passing moment. All eyes were on the center of the stage, waiting for Amy Winehouse to appear. With every little movement, the crowd stirred, and the ambient sound grew even stronger. As the lights in the venue began to fade, silence took over the space. The emotion of the crowd was palpable, but something was about to happen that would make this moment unforgettable. Every fan, every person in the room was in a state of suspense, eagerly awaiting Amy. The atmosphere was charged with expectation. This wasn't just another show. It was an eagerly awaited spectacle with a captivating energy that made everyone fully present, absorbing every second. Then the lights flashed back on, illuminating the stage and revealing Amy Winehouse, an imposing figure with her unique presence and unmistakable voice. She didn't need anything more to captivate everyone's attention. But there was something in the air that night that made the audience realize that what was about to happen would be far beyond the usual. It was impossible not to feel that something surprising was coming. She, as always, was ready to be authentic, intense, and above all, surprising. The camera focused on the crowd's faces, their eyes shining with excitement. Some whispered to each other, others were asking what Amy would do next. The music softened. And at that very moment, everyone held their breath. No one knew what was to come, but everyone felt this moment would be unique. The silence was broken by a collective scream from the crowd, but it wasn't just any reaction. It was an explosion of emotions, as if everyone present knew that this night would be different from the usual. The intensity of the moment was at its peak, and Amy Winehouse, with her characteristic posture and penetrating gaze, was about to show everyone that she wasn't just a singer. She was an artist who knew how to stir the emotions of her audience. She stepped onto the stage with the confidence that always defined her, but something was different in this moment. The fans began to stir even more, and the air was filled with anticipation. The lights reflected off her skin, highlighting her unique presence, and it was at that moment that she did something no one could anticipate. Instead of beginning with her usual performance, Amy looked at the crowd with an enigmatic smile. The music paused, and the artist made a gesture that silenced everyone. "I want to do something different tonight," she announced. With a soft but firm voice, Amy invited a random fan to the stage. What seemed like a typical interaction turned into something extraordinary. The looks exchanged between the fans were full of confusion as they tried to understand what exactly was happening. It was clear that the show had taken an unexpected turn, and everyone was curious to see what would happen next. The chosen fan, a young man who never imagined such a moment would happen to him, stepped onto the stage in shock. He could hardly believe that he was standing in front of Amy, his idol, the artist who had touched his life with her music. The crowd watched him, anxiously waiting for his reaction. But what no one knew was that Amy had something much more valuable for him than just a performance. She didn't just want to interact, she wanted to give him something no one else would have the chance to receive. Amy approached him with a smile on her face and handed him something. What was it? A gift that seemed symbolic, but carried much more meaning. The fan looked at the object in his hands, completely speechless. It was something he never expected, and his reaction was instantaneous. He froze for a moment, trying to comprehend the magnitude of Amy's gesture. The fan, still stunned, held the gift in his hands, unable to express what he was feeling. He looked at Amy, trying to process what had just happened, but nothing seemed to make sense. Amy's gesture was so unexpected, so out of the ordinary, that he couldn't believe it. The audience, paying close attention to every move, was silent, waiting for the young man's reaction. It was clear that this moment was bigger than any ordinary performance. Amy, with a knowing smile, observed the fan. She knew that what had just happened transcended any moment of fame or prestige. It was a gesture of love and connection with those who had always supported her. The gift, seemingly simple, was full of symbolism, something that couldn't be expressed in words. It was more than just an object. It was a message, a gesture of recognition and appreciation for someone who, in some way, reflected the dedication and love Amy received from her fans. The crowd, now in absolute silence, waited for the fans' reaction. He looked at the gift again, trying to understand what was happening, and then something extraordinary happened. He began to cry. Tears streamed down his face as he held the object in his hands, still unable to fully process the gesture. The emotion was so intense that he couldn't control himself. The audience, moved by the scene, began to get emotional as well. People around him exchanged knowing glances, as if they were all experiencing the same moment. It wasn't just a gift. It was something far more powerful. The young man, still with his voice choked, began to thank Amy, but the words didn't seem enough to express the gratitude he felt. He looked at her, and in that gaze was the understanding that he had just received something priceless, the genuine connection of an artist who truly recognized and valued him. And in that moment, he wasn't just a fan, he was part of something much bigger, something that would be remembered forever. Amy, seeing the fans' reaction, smiled with a look of complicity. She knew that this gesture wasn't just for that fan, it was for all of them. The impact of the gift wasn't in the object itself, but in the act of humanity, in the idea that the young fan, still stunned, raised the gift Amy had handed him and looked at the crowd. It felt like he was dreaming. He was standing in front of the artist he admired, with the gift in his hands, but the magnitude of the moment was going beyond what he could describe. It didn't matter what the gift was, because what mattered was the gesture. Amy, one of the greatest artists of her generation, had connected with him in a unique way. And that, in itself, was an immeasurable reward. Fans around him began to gather, curious to see what he held. Some wondered what the gift could be. Was it something simple, a symbolic item, or perhaps something personal? The young man still couldn't speak clearly. The emotion was so overwhelming that he could hardly articulate any words. But that didn't matter. The emotion in the room was palpable. The audience was living the moment with him, feeling the same surprise and admiration. It wasn't just the fan who was touched. Everyone in the room was involved in the scene. The young man, finally, with a choked voice, turned to Amy and through his tears said, "I never imagined something like this would happen in my life. This is more than I could ever dream of." The audience, moved by his reaction, began to applaud once again. But this wasn't a regular applause. It was a recognition of what was happening there, of the power of Amy's gesture. She hadn't just given a gift. She had given something far more meaningful, a connection that resonated with everyone in the room. Amy, visibly emotional, responded with a gentle smile. She knew that what she was doing wasn't just for that fan, but for all of them. The gesture was full of meaning, of connection. It wasn't just a gift. It was a moment of gratitude, of recognition. Amy didn't need anything more than this. The silence that followed was overwhelming. The audience was completely immersed in the moment, absorbing every second of what had just happened. The connection between Amy and the fan on stage seemed to have broken down any barriers. transforming the energy of the show into something much deeper, much more visceral. The crowd, for the most part, didn't know how to react at first. Some were so moved that they could barely contain their tears. Others exchanged surprised looks, speechless, as if they were all experiencing the same moment. What might have seemed like a simple interaction between artist and fan had become a testament to the power of music and humanity. Each applause that echoed through the venue was not just for Amy's performance, but for the loving gesture she had shared with the fan. It was a moment of pure empathy, a reminder that the bond between artist and audience was more than just a transactional relationship. Amy had given more than a performance. She had given a piece of herself, and that's what made the moment so extraordinary. Fans around the young man began to approach him, curious about what he held in his hands. Some wanted to see the gift. Was it something simple, or was it something more symbolic? But the fan didn't even look at the gift anymore. His gaze was fixed on Amy, who had just transformed his life in a way he could never have imagined. He had become the symbol of something much greater, the connection between an artist and their most dedicated supporters. The crowd, now fully aware of the significance of what had just happened, began to applaud louder. It wasn't just for the performance, but for the heartfelt connection they had witnessed. Amy had done something that most artists would never even consider. She had taken the time to give back to the people who had supported her. The applause was a tribute to that act of kindness, of recognition. It was a moment that would be remembered by everyone present. While the applause continued, Amy stood still, watching the fan and the audience with a gentle smile on her face. She knew that in that instant, she had done something far more impactful than singing a song. She had created a memory, a connection that would live on forever in the hearts of her fans. As the crowd slowly began to settle, Amy remained there, watching everything unfold. Her smile was soft but full of meaning. She wasn't just a singer on a stage that night. She was a woman who understood the power of connection, of gestures that came from the heart. The fans' reaction, his tears, the impact on the audience, it was all more than she could have ever expected. She knew that in that moment she had offered something far beyond her music. She had given them a piece of her soul. With the same natural ease she brought to her art, Amy turned to the audience, her voice calm but filled with sincerity. "This is what it means to me to be here. You aren't just my fans. We are family." Her words, simple and direct, resonated so strongly that the crowd fell into another hushed silence. It was a declaration of gratitude, an acknowledgement that the relationship between artist and audience goes far beyond performance, fame, or money. Amy's gesture of inviting a fan onto the stage and giving him a gift wasn't an impulsive act. It was her way of showing her love for her fans, of thanking them for every moment, every cheer, every smile throughout her career. She knew that music had taken her to where she was, but she couldn't forget that it was her audience, her supporters, who made that journey possible. And in that moment, she wanted to repay them in a genuine way, by showing them that no matter how high she had risen, she would never disconnect from those who had brought her to the top. The smile on Amy's face was one of understanding. She knew that by doing this, she was creating something more lasting than any concert or performance. She was forming a bond, not just with that fan, but with every person in the room. For a few moments, there were no boundaries, no differences. It was simply people coming together in a shared, unforgettable experience. The fans moved. Amy Winehouse's act of kindness that night didn't take long to spread across the media and social networks. Within hours, what seemed like a spontaneous and genuine moment during a concert became one of the most talked about events of the week. Fans from around the world started sharing videos, photos, and stories about what they had witnessed. And soon, the words Amy Winehouse and Surprise on Stage were all over social media. The impact was immediate and immeasurable. In an industry where artists often distance themselves from their fans, creating barriers between them and their audience, Amy tore down those walls. That night wasn't just another performance. It was a statement of authenticity, of reciprocity. She didn't just thank her fans with words or applause. She went beyond that, offering a symbolic gift that reflected her recognition and appreciation for someone who, in some way, represented the dedication and love Amy received from her supporters. In the days that followed, the act of Amy was widely discussed in the media. Journalists highlighted the depth of her gesture, emphasizing how it represented a rare moment in an industry where the distance between idols and fans is often the norm. Amy's act was seen as a way to... The unexpected gift Amy gave that night wasn't just a momentary surprise. It marked the beginning of a historic connection between the artist and her fans. The gesture, simple yet deeply meaningful, reinforced a bond that went beyond music and became something much more personal. For the fans, it wasn't just a show, it was an experience of intimacy, of belonging, where they felt that, for a brief moment, Amy wasn't just the star on stage, but a friend who acknowledged and valued. Each one of them, in a unique way, Amy, in her authenticity, was able to establish a reciprocal relationship with her audience. The gift was more than just an object. It was a symbol of recognition. In a world where fans are often seen as mere spectators, Amy flipped the script, placing them at the center of her performance and making it clear that she didn't see them as consumers of her music, but as partners in her artistic journey. By inviting a fan onto the stage and giving him a gift, she didn't just acknowledge one individual. She made every person in the room feel like they were part of something bigger, a true community united by music and shared experience. Amy's act quickly spread on social media, but the true power of the connection was seen in the way fans reacted. It wasn't just about the fan who received the gift. It was about how the gift represented the experience of so many others. The fans' reaction on stage wasn't the only memorable moment of the night. The entire audience was with him, living that moment of surprise and emotion. The connection Amy had created with her audience was reflected in the way everyone felt about that moment. It wasn't just a gift to one person, it was a gift to everyone. The impact of that night wasn't fleeting. The connection Amy Winehouse created with her fans had a lasting effect, one that resonated far beyond the show itself. The surprise on stage, the simple yet deeply meaningful gesture became a moment that fans would remember forever. That night became a reference for how an artist can truly connect with their audience in a genuine and transformative way. The fans didn't just leave the venue having seen a show. They left having experienced something much deeper, much more personal. In the days that followed, fans who were present at the show began to share their stories. Many expressed how deeply the moment had touched them. It wasn't just about the fan who received the gift, it was about how everyone in the crowd felt like they were part of something bigger. Amy's act wasn't just a gift for one person, it was a symbol of the love and connection she had with all of them. The emotion they all felt was shared by everyone who witnessed it. In the following days, videos of the surprise began to circulate. The impact of Amy's gesture spread virally, with fans from all over the world sharing their stories of how Amy's music had touched their lives. The hashtag related to the gift on stage quickly gained traction as thousands of fans shared their own experiences and feelings about what they had witnessed. For many, it wasn't just a kind gesture, it was a rare moment of authenticity where a global star allowed herself to be vulnerable and genuine without any pretense. The lasting effect didn't just impact the fans who were present. It also made people reflect on their own actions and relationships. Many began to reconsider how they interact with others and the importance of showing appreciation and kindness. Amy's simple act had inspired a shift in perspective, a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful moments come from the most unexpected gestures. What she had done wasn't just for one person. It was for everyone who had ever been touched by her music and her story. Moreover, the lasting effect was seen in how Amy was viewed. She wasn't just a performer anymore. She was a figure who understood the value of her fans. She had gone beyond the stage, beyond the music, to create something far more lasting, a connection, a bond that went deeper than anything words or performances could ever convey. That night, Amy showed that true artists are those who can make their audience feel seen, valued, and loved. And that was the greatest impact of all. As the show came to an end, the energy in the venue was indescribable. The audience wasn't just leaving a musical performance, they were walking away from a transformative experience. The gift Amy Winehouse had given to the fan was more than just an unexpected gesture. It was a reflection of her true character and her ability to touch people's souls. The crowd, still buzzing with emotion, left the venue knowing they had been part of something much bigger than just a concert. They had been part of a genuine connection, an unforgettable shared experience. Amy, at her core, had shown the world that behind her public persona there was a woman with a massive heart. The legacy she created that night wasn't just musical, it was emotional. Her gesture of giving a gift, without any pretense or desire for recognition, demonstrated the true power of humanity. It was a reminder that even at the top of the world, authenticity and genuine connection with others are what truly matter. She didn't need anything more than this to solidify her place in the hearts of her fans. The impact of her action wasn't just on the public recognition she received. It also sparked a broader reflection on the way the music industry and public figures in general relate to their audience. In an industry where the focus is often on image and fame, Amy stood out by showing that the true power of an artist lies in their ability to connect with their fans on a human level. That night wasn't just about her performance. It was about the bond she created with everyone in that room. And that bond would last far longer than any album release or concert tour. Amy Winehouse may have left this world too soon, but the impact of her music and the way she connected with her fans lives on forever. The gift she gave that night wasn't just for one fan. It was for everyone who loved her. She showed the world the true power of music and humanity, and that legacy will remain in the hearts of all those who were fortunate enough to witness that moment.